Give us a story. Come on, I want to hear a story. Give me something funny.
3 guys in the cab, pull up at a freeway off ramp. Huge guy in the driver's seat, huge guy in the window seat. Small, sweet little man, out of his mind. This guy's out of his mind.
It's Movified Mondays. It's Movified Mondays, where mindset meets momentum.
Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Salmon's Moving and Storage and Ellis Moving and Storage, located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. It is Movified Mondays, everybody. And today on Movified, we are joined by one of the most recognizable brands, you could say, in the Arizona moving industry, Muscular Moving Men, and its co-founder, Josh Jurhill. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
I am always jazzed and excited to have guests that I know, have a friendship with, where it's very easy to talk to. And it's always funny. I always feel like the last couple conferences, you got the muscular men guys, your brand, everything always like, here's your booth. And then Movified always seems to be very close by. We're always like right around the corner when we set it up. So it's great because then we get a chance to talk and hang out. Josh helped, for all those that don't know Josh, Josh helped grow the company from 2 guys and a borrowed truck into a high performance. I mean, we're talking high performance moving and storage operation that's known for its elite mover athletes. Just ask Josh to flex and you'll see why. Being disciplined with culture, the van line level type of service delivered as an independent model. And we're going to touch on this even based on, what does that van line level even mean these days? And especially where the independents are taking it. Let's talk about like the rapidly scaled teams that he's got, the new warehouse that's underway, partnerships across the moving industry. Muscular Moving Men has really become a benchmark for growth, systems, premium customer service. I am trying to talk them high up because Josh says that I get free candy, but only protein candy if I talk them up as much. But Josh is here to talk. We're going to talk about expansion. We're going to talk about culture today, collaboration, what it really takes to build a moving company that stands out in one of the most competitive markets in the country. Josh, are you ready?
I am ready, and thanks for all the kind words, Mark.
No worries. Let's kind of kick it off. Looking back, at the very beginning, you're looking at starting it out. What was the moment that you start to realize, hey, like we actually have potential? Because there's so many moving companies that, they kick the bucket for years. Then they have ended up going to a conference. They end up going, hey, like I can make this work. Maybe we can start scaling. But in reality, most companies just end up failing, right? They start it, they kind of get it, can't get it running. When was that point that you're like, hey, like we actually have something and we're going to build something huge in the Arizona market?
Sure. Well, I think it's, interesting to think back on those times because, we're going on 18 years in business roughly now. So it goes by in a blink, but, I remember, starting on Craigslist and, I don't even know if Craig still has his list going on, but posting those ads down here and doing side jobs and then being 24 and getting to a point where leaving my insurance claims adjuster job at the time and being all in and with my business partner and just really having we're doing this, we're all in, this can't fail. So, and also having like a ignorance is bliss type attitude of, looking back now, if I had to give advice to 24-year-old Josh, like, do you really know what you're signing up for and how tough this industry is? And by being back then, I'm like, oh, we're going to take on the world. We're going to be the biggest moving company in Phoenix. Now I would say, what does that even mean? Do you really want to have, like, does that mean you got the most revenue? You have the best client satisfaction? What does being the best exactly mean? But just being so ignorant to like business, what it takes. And it was kind of a beautiful time to just shooting from the hip as we go. And I think just doing the moves with my partner, I have 2 partners now, but my original partner, Justin, and just, making relationships. Shout out to Justin. Yeah. So he's the extroverted one, making all the relationships. I'm serving the introverted operational type guy. But I think just seeing immediate success, walking into furniture places, handing out our first business cards, walking to apartment complexes, doing the moves ourselves and seeing success. And I think just knowing that, having our athletes' perspective on work ethic and seeing immediate success, we knew that there was something there. So I'm not sure I had any ideas of scaling or even knowing what the scaling even means. This is all prior to Shark Tank and hearing all the cool cliche terms and everything. But I think just head down focused and just let's get some relationships, let's get jobs, and let's see what happens from there.
Well, when you look at the beginning stages, for you and Justin, like, were you always someone that was in shape? Like, were you playing football all the time? Were you like always an avid gym person, keeping health like very strict? Because we were going back like 18 years. And if you asked me 18 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, sure. I kind of went to the gym. I tried to stay healthy, but you're running businesses, you're in relationships. I bet you, I can look at like all the different years of pictures of me from like jumping in weights to only, in the last couple of years, really focusing on, this is my health. This is how I want to look. This is, I want to set my 40s up for success. Was that something right in the beginning that when you were running the trucks and going out to seek business, you're like, look, we want to have a healthy mindset. We want to look fit. We want to be fit. And this is the type of persona that we want, especially if we're going to call ourselves, muscular moving men.
Yeah. So great question. And I think, I've always been an athlete. Justin was always an athlete, from, Pop Warner football to Boys and Girls Club basketball to through high school and everything. And then ultimately on a, fitness level, I used to do natural bodybuilding. I was Mr. Arizona a couple of times in my earlier 20s. Yeah. So, but I think, so that was always a theme for me, and it still is. Now that's evolved. My idea of what fitness is certainly evolved. Marathons, triathlons, Spartan races, have a marathon next week that I'm doing with my girlfriend. So I think just kind of doing hard things, pushing yourself and growth mindset, when it comes to fitness, it was something I believed in then, and it's evolved to what fitness is to me now. I don't push a lot of weight. I don't go stand on stages or anything, but fitness is, always going to be an important part of my life. So I think as we're coming up with a company name for our Craigslist ad, and, literally coming up with Muscular Moving Men, and we then bought the rights to Buddy the Box clip art for $25 on Google, which was amazing because it's a great logo that was very catchy. So, kind of putting that out there, and you better back it up. I guess, it certainly gets a little bit of attention as a name and on the side of a truck. And when people are applying, like, Muscular Moving Men, really? Who do you think you are? But it sticks out a little bit. And, early on, for sure, like that early on culture and the quality of our guys, we got the right kind of brand of guys. Little thing, we had sleeveless shirts, all black. We're still all black uniforms, but we got sleeves on them now. But it was just a little thing to stand out, and it made that team atmosphere where we had mover athletes. That's what we call them still. So
before we ever started using a moving CRM, someone asked me, could you 10x what you're doing right now with the current systems and processes you have in place? And I said no. And so he was like, well, then you need to just pull the trigger on the software. And then I saw Smart Moving, and it was game over.
Austin joined thousands of moving owners on Smart Moving in 2021. Since then, he's more than doubled his business.
And I always compare Smart Moving to Apple products. It's just so simple, so easy to use, and that's really what's allowed my team to scale and now have 2 branches. And last year we scaled Central Coast Moving over 50% growth.
If you're ready to turn your moving company into a machine that drives profit, not chaos, try Smart Moving.
Hey everyone, Matty Mailer's here, the guy who pioneered handwritten letters for the moving industry. Why? Because my competition at my moving company was using the same stock postcards as me, and my mailing company didn't care. So I created a better way. Here's some mind-blowing results in July. Miracle Movers Utah closed $93,000 using our handwritten letter strategy. With our campaigns, you can forget about the guessing games. You get a trackable phone number daily photo proof, an incredible design team, and I'm also included. All letters stop at me for approval before they ever leave our facility. Right now, Movified listeners get 1,000 golden tickets stuffed in our genuine handwritten letters completely free. Plus, I'm going to throw in bulk realtor data for up to 5 counties. What are you waiting for? Moving Letters AI. Stop competing, start dominating.
Which is great, because I mean, that, you know, and that kind of goes into, like, especially when we're talking about culture, how does culture work within an organization? I mean, you know, there's so many moving companies out there that are like, you know, best movers of, or, you know, professional services. And then you get some guy that's lighting a cigarette coming out of the truck. You know, they're either overweight, they don't look professional. They're not even maybe sometimes in a company shirt. And you're like, look, your brand is on the truck. You're literally saying you are the best movers of, or, you know, ABC professional, whatever the company is. I mean, you are supposed to represent that brand. And you know, and kudos to you, because when you're having a brand that's called like Muscular Moving Men, you want to have that presence also. So I love it, because, you know, people, we talk about this on the show too, and I say it all the time to others. It's like, we try and not be judgmental individuals. We don't try and, you know, oh, you know, there's that person or that person, but customers and us daily, we still will look at, oh, this is the crew you sent me, you know, or these guys are slow, or, you know, these guys look like they can't lift anything. And so you try and build this culture within the company, but you also want to make sure that the guys that are going out to represent the customers have good customer service. You know, they dress professionally, they look professional, they look like, you know, they can handle an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day and not gas out after 2 hours. And that also leads into the culture. What was some of the first systems, though, or habits that you started putting in place? I mean, we're talking now about how the type of people you hired, but like, what was that first step that you're like, okay, like, we got to get this in place in order for us to grow into the 3, 4, 10, 20 trucks?
Mm-hmm. Well, so there's a saying you know, we have posted up here, and you are what you accept. So back into the, you know, kind of culture and like the kind of guys that you're setting out. I think one thing I know after nearly 20 years here, like our field level team, they will constantly press the issue of what's acceptable here. And it is an exhausting thing, and certainly for our dispatch team, our operations team, to every day, you know, as little as like not wearing a company hat. Like, you know, you don't show up here wearing a Red Sox hat in a muscular, you want to wear a hat, you wear a Muscular Moving Men hat. We show up, we don't show up in blank trucks. They're Muscular Moving Men trucks. We're not a cheap we're not cheap in pricing, and we don't provide cheap service. So when our customers are paying a premium, which we're selling, we had better provide that and show up. You know, if I'm paying for a premium service, I want to see a company that shows up in branded uniforms. It matters, in the right looking truck, the right customer service. So I think that's a daily battle. And I guess back to, you know, the early days, it always kind of started there with Justin and myself, starting early on, what's acceptable. If you're coming to work, if you're smoking and whatnot, that was just not what was acceptable for us. And it was not, we didn't allow that. And so, you know, I believe in leading from the front, setting the expectations. And I think as you get a team that's buying into that, like, hey, this is part of being the team here. And I believe people want to play for a winning team also. Our team self-governs, our team self-administers our expectations out there, and make sure the rest of the team is living up to those. That, you know, other guys are pulling the weight, and if they're not, then we get them onto the competition. So we get them out of here.
Well, exactly. What type of what kind of policies do you have in place? Like infractions, issues, like what does it look like to come and work for you and show up not in a hat, you know, not performing to the certain expectations? What do you guys have in place as your policies?
I think it's interesting to see, for me to see where we're at now, however many years in, and having what I would like to think is a pretty solid onboarding platform and training, what the first couple weeks looks like. We have a training truck in the warehouse, and from day one, somebody coming in here, a formal interview, a walk around, setting expectations, getting to know the company, our history, what the first couple days, excuse me, in the office look like. And, before we're ever getting on to actual in the job, on the job training. So I think we do a pretty good job of walking around and making it very clear from the get-go what expectations are, being punctual, being in uniform, customer service. And so even with that said, and I have to tell you, moving is a very difficult job. So it's a everyday challenge to uphold the procedures, but at least we're setting the expectations right from the get-go. And I would say that, one thing that makes it tough early on is there's no real training or onboarding. It's kind of like, you seem like you could move furniture. Let's get you out in the truck and it'll be on the job. And in my opinion, guys feed into that. Like, this is the kind of company I'm working for now. Like, they kind of just throw you out. It seems like you kind of do whatever. Whereas now there's expectations set. And I think that's just the evolution of like year 1 to year 18 or whatever, and having a more structured onboarding. And from that, setting expectations for the team. So
You mentioned having like a truck in the warehouse. So, run it through. You've hired me. You're like, all right, this guy looks fit. Don't really trust that he can last an 8-hour day, but we'll give him a shot. And you hire me up. I get the walk around. I'm going through the training. I've done the process. Do you have set training for me to learn? Is it dependent if I'm a driver as opposed to a helper? To help, like, is there someone teaching me, this is how you load a truck, this is how we're wrapping furniture, this is the expectations, this is the walkthrough with paperwork, this onboarding? Do you have everything extremely separated as opposed to someone that's just a helper to someone that's going to be a driver? Or can you not even become a driver right off the bat? What protocols do you have in place for that? And then what happens if I have experience already coming in there? Are you looking for guys that have experience, or would you rather have someone that's completely fresh?
Sure, good question. I think so. Everyone's brought in as a helper to learn the Muscular Moving Men way, essentially. I think having moving experience can mean that in a lot of different things, because there's so many different variety of moving companies. So because you had experience and you worked at a different moving company, I don't know if the other moving company had our expectations. So we want everyone to start from the ground up and not just come in as a driver or a crew lead. So immediately we're setting growth and advancement opportunities. You start wherever everyone started. You're going to learn it from the ground up. That's with our trainer in the warehouse doing the basic level, how to pack a box, what is a box, what is a different carton, how do we fold a pad, how do we wrap specific kinds of furniture. And it's really kind of a test, is this person have some work ethic? Can they take direction? And, we have a training room where we're going through some videos, but all this is just kind of a precursor to on the job training, because that's when you really learn how somebody's going to work out in the trenches, and there's really no replacement for that. But this testing day or days, it just kind of gives us some insight into the kind of person that we're bringing on. We also include a visit to a job site with this new prospective hires. So our trainer is then taking them out to a job site, see the team in action to actually see what's going on. And so for movers with experience, they might be like, yep, I get it. I've done this before, all good. Or these are some different things that you guys do. But it's really setting the tone of, there is a process here. We're going to set expectations. And there's plenty of guys that don't show back up after the first training day, and that's fine. We'd rather them do that versus out on
Not showing
the job.
up on the
Yeah. Or like, having, because I think it also sends the wrong tone for our seasoned movers. Like, you guys keep putting me with, new guys that just don't stick around, and that can affect the culture too. So I think it's more of an investment and some time for new hires, but it certainly has helped us a lot in the way of retention and just the long-term culture.
I love the process. I never, I like the idea of taking the new hire out to a job site, not putting them as like a third or fourth guy, saying, hey, okay, you've done your training, you've done your onboarding. We're going to toss you in to now test out, but you're going to be like the third or fourth guy on the job to kind of get the feel for it. But going, okay, we're going to go, I really kind of want to show you. I can show you videos and watching our guys do the moves, but to bring you to a job site and say, let's stand back. I want you to observe, what are you noticing? What can you do? This is what they're doing. This is how it's done. I love that as part of your onboarding training. Scaling, right? So what do you think, especially for the 18 years, was like the hardest part of not even like letting go, but you yourself, like what was, you said in the beginning, like if I could go back to like, Josh back in the day, what do you think was the biggest thing that you had to let go as a leader of the company and had to change yourself?
I geek out on, leadership, reading leadership books, just evolution of emotional intelligence, how to reach different people, talk to different people. And I think, thinking back on wanting to do everything, being a control freak, at some level, no one's going to book a job like I can, dispatch a job like I can, yada, yada, yada. But as I get to this place of having to let go, realizing that I'm only as good as the team around me. I'm only going to go as far as the team around me wants me to go. I think realizing that the team around me, they're going to follow suit from leadership, which is me. So leading from the front, setting expectations, not expecting more from others than I expect from myself. So I think some would say, try to be the hardest worker in the room. And I've found that allowing others to slip, stumble, and have me coach, I've seen people around me realize their own potential, realize their own competence, and they've absorbed some of the things that I do or my partner does. But it's a cool thing to see other people really step up, and by way of that, allow our company to live. But it really doesn't have anything to do with me per se. It's by other people stepping up. And by way of that, I've also, come to realize that the people that got me here aren't the people necessarily that will get me there. And, we kind of, I'm all for elevating movers and giving people an opportunity. But to get to the higher steps, the general manager that could general manage when we were only doing local moves wasn't the general manager that could general manage when we're doing interstate, commercial, local. And so it's on, myself to constantly grow, learn, read, evolve, because the CEO that can manage a local company dispatching 5 trucks, I don't know that maybe I'm not the CEO that can manage the company 5 years from now unless I continue to grow. So it's on me and it's on everybody around here to continue to evolve. But I guess that was a long way of answering your question.
Long-winded, but it was fantastic too, because it really starts making and hopefully those that are watching or listening, stop and ponder and go, because this happens a lot. We grow a business, we think we're going, and I mean, I had this on my first moving company where I hit a roof, and I didn't even know which learning tools, where to go, what to do. I didn't have proper mentors in place, and I in the end of the day, kind of took the easy road and says, well, great, there's another moving company for sale that has, onboarding, has the systems, has the processes, has everything in place. I'm just going to buy this company and like really just jump in and skip that middle part scale of growth, and for some you could say, well, Mark took the easy way and he did that. But I also took a massive risk in purchasing a company then that's, there's tariffs, there's long distance. Now the setting has to come in, right? Like now all the extra learning. And I look back, 8 years later going, if I would have listened to this podcast and listened to someone like Josh and says, well, 5 trucks is easy, but you want to get to 10 or 20, you need to apply yourself in this and this and this, look for this type of leadership, read these kind of books. It probably would have changed my perspective. And my perspective has completely changed now. I feel like I wish I could go back and I would have, scaled that company left, right, and center. But you're right. It's so important in order to be the leader, you have to constantly grow, constantly learn yourself, grow your mind, but then also who you are as a person, because all of these employees that you have are constantly looking at you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I definitely feel that. What do you think is like one process that you implemented even more recently, or wherever you feel like at the stage that you're at, that every moving company should have, but most of them just don't?
I'll say this, and this is something I'm proud of, that is not probably the sexiest thing to say. Safety. I think it's one of the proudest things that I have, or that we do. And it didn't take a catastrophe for us to implement safety. But I think, for example, like inward and outward facing cameras. So we have, inward and outward facing cameras in the trucks. And so we can see everything that's happening on the cabs. And we have, whatever GPS software, they're all pretty amazing. It details.
What software are you using?
It's called Titan GPS. So originally it was GPS Insight. We had looked at Sensara, but that's who we're at when. And so it tracks, driver inattention, like excessive yawning, texting and driving, things like this. And so
I like that, excessive yawning.
It's crazy, dude. And like,
It's crazy.
But the initial, and maybe you think other folks have experienced this too. You put those cameras in the inward facing initially, and guys are immediately like, big brother, they kidding me? Guys are putting shrink wrap over the cameras, this, that, and the other. And so, so if no one's actually monitoring the cameras, who cares? It doesn't do anything. And it's a lot of footage to document. So like it's pointless. And if you can have something like where people could just put shrink wrap around it and like no one even notices the camera's blocked, what's the point? And frankly, back into culture, the guys will quickly realize it's meaningless. They don't do anything with it. So this is where we've leveraged VA support. And so we have a fleet and safety manager, and the amount of interstate shipments we do with ELDs, hours of service, things like this, had to have that. But we have a couple of great fleet and safety VAs that are monitoring these, and they're posting through Slack constantly, both positive and negatives. Like Green Star for Jimmy, you had a good stop there, and we'll post the inward and outward facing camera on Slack where the entire 150 people in the enterprise can see. And we also post the negatives, like, hey, no texting and driving, please. And so we're not just beating everyone over the head with it, but we're sharing positive and negative, and it's out there for marketing cars, light duty vehicles, semis, all these kind of things. No one blocks the cameras anymore, and it's just a part of being here. And I think at some level, people like to work for a safe company. We, knock on wood, we haven't had the catastrophes. And that's just something we're really proud of that we do. It's the right thing to do. And I haven't had to, again, knock on wood, have any major issues.
If you're considering Snowball, just do it.
Snowball creates done-for-you referral programs for moving companies so you can turn happy customers into new revenue without lifting a finger. And the results speak for themselves.
In less than a year, we've collected over 2,000 referrals.
We generated over $200,000 of revenue that cost about $5,000 to do it.
I believe we have 4 or 5 the very first day.
The companies winning with Snowball are the ones that already care about their customers. We just help turn that into new business through human outreach and customer nurturing.
Snowball is part of the arsenal of tools that I recommend to my clients because it works.
Being found on the second page of Google is literally like having a billboard in the middle of the desert. Your mama ain't gonna see it. No one's gonna see it. You're on the second page of Google, no one's gonna call, no one's gonna book. Here is the deal. If your business is not ranking on the top of Google, that means your competitors are going to be stealing your customers every single day. So at Rotate Digital, we don't play any guessing games. We use data-driven SEO strategies to make sure Google finds you first so that these Google searches turn into your customers, not your competitors' customers. How do we do it? We do it through AI-driven keyword optimization, exclusive blog networks, backlinking strategies, and honestly, the secret stuff, the proprietary lead attribution software. So what do you get as a result? You get not only good marketing, but now you get clarity into what is bringing you more revenue. So if that's something you want to do, you want to make sure your leads find you and not your competition, go ahead and go to rotatedigital.com, schedule a call, and we'll help you take your business to the top of Google.
The AI aspect of it, because I mean, look, to me, it's like one of those catch-22s. The safety is so important. You put up the cameras, you do it, and the reality is that no one is standing, sitting there monitoring this like footage all day, every day, right? And even if you say, well, great, I can hire a VA, and the VA can just sit there and like watch, all the different screens of all the different drivers, you're bound to still catch something or miss something. You talked about this like VA or AI tracking. Is that part of the Titan program? Like, is there something that you outsource and built in? How is that being implemented to track what they're doing and how you're being able to catch, different scenarios?
So this specific software is sending the notifications to the VA that will then dive deeper into the video. Like, here's a notification of texting and driving. And then, so yes, it is taking an actual VA or human to review that notification, but at least the AI type stuff is filtering out what needs to be reviewed. The next evolution of that, of, AI maybe reviewing the actual videos and say, hey, this is substantial, you should dive deeper. And I think that that's a big point of emphasis for us this coming year, is for every department, in every quarter, to have some kind of AI integration.
Well, 100 for sure. Is that program something you can share with, or that, for all those that maybe are using a program that are like, oh, like, how could I do this for my company?
The camera and the GPS type stuff.
Well, no, that's obviously the Titan
right.
GPS, but for the AI aspect of it, like to get the notes, is that part of that? And then your VA gets it, or are you using like a separate program?
There's no separate program. This is something that's already involved in the GPS tracking software that's reading and sharing when there is those, driver inattentions.
Okay, cool. Good to know, because I'm sure people are probably thinking about that right now.
Just real quick on that, Mark. I have seen some stuff in these trucks and these cabs you would not believe. Like, so I think that's
the story. Come on, I want to hear a story. Give me something funny.
I don't know if it's funny, but three guys in a cab. I'll make this like 30 seconds or less. Three guys in a cab, pull up at a freeway off ramp. Huge guy in the driver's seat, huge guy in the window seat, small, sweet little man, new hire in the middle seat. This guy is, the driver's out of his mind. This guy is out of his mind. They are arguing at a freeway off ramp. Guy pulls a knife out of his, the driver. Long story short, this was, a few years ago. They go rolling out of the truck on the side of the freeway, past the middle guy, new guy. Thank God, because his truck starts rolling forward, steps on the brake. The camera sees these other knuckleheads rolling around on the side of the freeway out the door. These are the things that you couldn't believe if you didn't see it on camera. And I guess the other, tricky thing is, like, when you start catching some of these, red light running, other things, you're like, good Lord, but how many times has this happened? I just never knew about it. And so now
I think that's, I think that's the biggest scare and wake up call, because so many of us just go, great, yeah, this driver, hasn't had any speeding tickets. I don't hear anything bad. The guys he's working with, I don't hear anything bad. You get the odd, yeah, he was kind of speeding, or he maybe cut, this guy off. And then you start putting these cameras up, and they start forgetting that there's cameras watching them, and everything's being tracked. And the amount of crap, you almost kind of turn around and go, man, we really got to sit down, or I got to fire every driver that's here, because there's just constant problems.
What gets measured gets improved. So, one of our reports, was, like when we first got this, the amount of speeding, the amount of red light running, the amount of you're like, this is awful. This is unbelievable. This is how our fleet of trucks is out driving. And then it hits you real quick. Like, these are massive tanks that can cause serious destruction. Some of our guys are just driving around like imbeciles. But as you start, gets improved. We're like, let's bring those down. Let's bring it down a little bit more. We need to do a little bit more driver training, and we're sharing this stuff on Slack. The guys know that we take it serious. And so that's, again, where I kind of preface this. It's not a sexy thing, like to say, hey, no one died today, no accidents. We didn't try it. It's an important thing that I think just goes by the wayside and can kind of get forgotten.
I agree. All right. Before we start kicking off, because I want to start talking about the warehouse, I want to talk about long distance. Mondays are the box of truth. So Wednesdays, you get the Dolly Dash. Mondays, you get the box of truth. Josh, I'm going to hit you with a couple questions. You have under 30 seconds or less to hit it. You ready?
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
All right, cool. What's something you had to unlearn as a leader in order for your company to grow?
Something I had to unlearn for my company to grow.
What's a bad habit, Josh?
What's a bad habit? I think this is back into empowering people and not stepping in and doing everything myself. So I think maybe just the lesson of, like, you want it done right, do it yourself. That essentially I had to unlearn.
When was the moment in your journey that you felt like quitting? And what kept you to fight?
I'll be honest, this past summer was really, really rough.
Really?
It pushed me to the test. We were doing a heck of a lot of interstate shipments this past year, and that kind of goes into the education on interstate and the growth there, maybe growing a little too fast. But I think combining that with just, where it's been in the moving industry with some of the challenges financially, and this past year was really, really stressful. I don't know that quitting's ever been on the table for me, but that I certainly took some gut punches this past year. And, there's one time I was in San Francisco about to do the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon. So I'm there in San Francisco doing a crazy triathlon. Next week, I'm like just mentally trying to prepare for that. I'm taking some very tough phone calls from a not happy client in the hotel room the day before. My girlfriend's listening to me. I'm getting killed by work. I've got anxiety from doing this. I'm like, man, life's hard sometimes.
Add some kids in the mix, Josh.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps that as well.
Add some kids. You'll be great. Which is actually kind of what my last question is when you think about the future, what legacy would you want to leave to your team, to your family eventually, that they would want to remember you by?
So from a professional level, what legacy I want to leave when it comes to working with them, I think that we built a company that allowed others to grow and to change the course of their own life financially, to learn. And I think we're on a good path for that, of creating growth opportunities. And I think that's one of the things that I'm proud of, and I want to continue to do, is just make a place here that people can learn and it really change their life, certainly on the financial level.
And the last final question is, why did you allow your girlfriend to let you grow a mustache?
It was started with my barber, my buddy. He's like, give this a try. I went home. I'm like, sweetie, what do you think? Like, is this a go? She's like, I kind of like it. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think I might have grown a couple inches as soon as I grew a mustache. The confidence, the bicep grew a little. I'm like, man, maybe Tom Selleck had it all figured out.
You do need the aviators. I feel like you got to just pull out those aviators all the time.
I'll work on that.
See, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. All right. And the box of truth is always currently brought to you by Movified Nation, movifiednation.com. Make sure you check it out. The app is out. The framework is there. We got our mastermind groups thriving. We have the culture and the community that is growing. So make sure you fill out the form today if you want to join the mastermind, or if you just want to join the community, make sure you check out movifiednation.com. Warehouse. Buddy, so we talked about this. I feel like I bring you up every time I talk to a Canadian moving company and go, so I have this friend that's in Arizona, and he's talking to me about how he's building this like 50,000, is it 50,000 square foot? How big is that place?
It's about 70,000 feet, but more in the ballpark.
70,000 square foot property. And I say, for the price that he is building this on, and Josh thinks the price is huge. The price in British Columbia, if I was looking to build a 70,000 square foot property, would probably cost me close to about 80 million.
Woo. Wow.
Yeah. So so I bring you up all the time, and I'm like, well, like I got to move to the States. I'm like, my buddy Josh is building this warehouse, and I always used to kept thinking it was like 50,000. And for the price that it costs to build your property makes sense. In Canada, it's like you're on a never program. You're never paying this thing off. You are going to be constantly just, no one's going to want to store anything with you because your price is just going to be outrageous. Or you found some heavy investors that want to help you build this thing, but you won't see it at the end of the tunnel. So when I look at yours, walk us through that decision, because a lot of people, talk about commercial real estate. They want to get into commercial real estate. How did that start? Like, did you guys just like look for the land first? Are you looking for locations? I don't know. I don't know how much time. I don't even know how the questions you want me to. I just kind of want to understand like the process. Somebody wants to start figuring out how to do a warehouse. Can you guide them what some of their best options should be, whether it's starting from scratch or buying an existing warehouse?
So I think in general, so the whole need for a warehouse starts back to the need for storage. We want to do storage. We need warehouse. The first warehouse we get, not that big, need a bigger warehouse, need to upgrade. And so I think this is probably a familiar story with a lot of moving company owners. The need for the storage justifies the bigger the building. So now we've gotten to a place, where we're essentially across 4 different spaces, totally inefficient. You forklifts at every location. It's very inefficient at 4 different parts of Phoenix. So
how big are the warehouses?
Combined all together, it's about 50,000 and change between 4 different locations, but it's fragmented. It's inefficient. It's the wrong clear height. And not to mention, lease costs, all in our current lease across 4 spaces, it's somewhere between $90,000 to $100,000 a month. So that's some decent chunk of change. And the challenge there is because of escalators every month or every year, those rates are only going up. And just like in my perspective, just like home ownership, you got to get in at some point. Like, I sure wish I would have bought a few years ago. I wish I would have bought a few years before that, and that would have been great. And that ship has sailed. So you got to get in when you can get in my opinion. So now is we're like, we have a lease that's coming up at some point, and we're kind of aware that commercial real estate sounds like a good thing. That we're just saying that God's not making any more of the land, so it's a good investment. So we started looking, and there's like 6 acres around the corner from our main office here. So just working through what this looks like with a commercial realtor. This is my first time acquiring commercial real estate, putting in the offer. So we bought the land, doing a design build and doing it for the right clear height. So enough clear height so we can stack our vaults 4 tall, enough warehouse space so that both our commercial division and our residential.
What's the height you guys are going for?
32 feet. So it's enough to stack 4 tall. And so make the most use of this space. Not to mention the gained efficiencies because we don't need as many warehouse folks and all these kind of things. Not to mention truck parking. You know, if I could tell you how many neighbors we've peeved off over time by being a moving company that, you know, shares space. So this is a big step for us. And, you know, it's certainly been educational as to everyone's hands are in our pockets. If the commercial realtor gets paid, this person gets paid, you know, the city and getting plans approved. You know, they share some plans with us the other day and they're like, I'm like, what are these things in the front parking lot? Oh, those are the electric charging stations that you have to have. 5 of them. We need 5 electric charging stations. City requirement. Like, wow. Okay. So I guess we're going to have to draw, you know, that money. And it's just surprise after surprise. This green initiative, you need to put this kind of, you know, thing in, going to, you know, hearings to get approvals. So it's just been educational. And at this point, we're set to move in October of next year. So they literally are just now breaking ground. So from the time we put in the original offer to the time we move in, it'll be 3.5 years.
Has been how long?
3.5 years by the time we move in.
3.5 years.
So just the cost, the loans, the, you know, all of it.
Every owner hits a point where their old habits just stop working, or they go again and again and again. Same thing, no new results. If you're at that point, don't ignore it. This is your sign to upgrade how you think, how you lead, how you execute. In January 9th and 10th in Chandler, Arizona, I'll be there with Jeremy Miner, Jason and Ali Watson, and other top operators. We'll spend 2 days with you, hands-on, learning sales, systems, leadership, strategies, tactics that give you real leverage in your business. You don't need more ideas. You need more implementation in your business. Click below and join the room that helps you grow faster.
Hey, it's Mark with Movified, and I'm here to talk about Canada Home Listings. They are the only direct mailer service built specifically for household good movers in Canada. That's right, my hometown. They help moving companies reach homeowners the moment they list their home with proven mail campaigns that drive results. And for the Movified listeners, they're offering exclusive promotions you won't find anywhere else. So go check them out today. Go online, go do your thing, and go find them. Canada Home Listings right now. Go. And then keep watching the show. When you look back, though, the fact that you bought that property 3.5 years ago, has that been a blessing to you and the team, like in the ownership, going, man, I'm glad that we did pull the plug then, because that 6 acres might have not been properly available or close enough. The locations, the prices have all increased in the last 3 years. So at least we got a good lock in on the price. Do you regret any of that? Or are you happy that, hey, you know what? Glad that we did it then.
I certainly don't regret anything, and I'm glad we did it when we did it. It is a exhausting process talking about big dollar figures that'll keep you up at night a little bit. But in the market that I'm in, Arizona is busting at the seams, both residentially as well as commercially. So there's a lot of these semiconductor plants coming out here, a lot of businesses fleeing certain states, coming to Phoenix. So commercial real estate is just going up in price. I think it's been interesting to understand, you know, the potential like owning commercial real estate presents when it comes to, you know, sale to investment companies, CapEx type opportunities. And aside from the moving company, the commercial real estate, you know, if the moving company misses, we can't miss there. So
no, because you at least have the real estate. And I mean, we said it on the show. I say it to a lot of people all the time. You know, moving companies are great. You know, when you think about it as the business owner on paper, you're like, wow, you know, I built this company and I have like 10 trucks and this is what our EBITDA is. And we've done this and we've done that. But in reality, if you don't have some strong accounts, if you don't have strong people in the office that are planning on staying on, because, you know, you could buy that company and they all quit anyways. And so you thought, wow, this company was so good. And now you're rehiring everybody, or half the movers quit because you've now exited the company. Or you find out that everybody just knew Josh, and now Josh is gone. So I'm going to go search somewhere else for different, setups. And so you want to have some strong accounts. But when you have an asset in play where you have something tangible, not just trucks because they fluctuate all the time, but you're like, look, this is the storage accounts. Our warehouse is full. We got lots of long-term storage. We have these delivery accounts. We have diversified our portfolio as a moving and storage company. And we also have this warehouse that's part of the property as well too. It's a massive win-win. And like you said, if on the moving side of things, if someone just wants to buy the moving company, great. Guess what? Now I'm your landlord and I own the commercial property, right? So I definitely, for those that are watching and listening that are, that 4 or 5 years into the business, you have some cash banked away, you have good cash flow, there's a property in there, and you are either renting self-storage facilities to help customers with storage, and there's an opportunity even to purchase like a 5,000 square foot warehouse, something in your area to kind of get you in there. You now own commercial real estate. And it's only going to be a win-win for you down the line. So lessons learned, 3.5 years of doing this. I learned this from, business acquisitions and buying businesses. And I always start learning, I missed this. I missed that. I wish I would have, make sure these, T's were crossed and I's were dotted to avoid some headaches. Looking back where you are now, you're breaking ground. What's something, you mentioned about, the green initiative and having the charging stations, everything else, and lots of learning. But what's something that if you could go back on that you're like, hey guys, if you're trying to do this, make sure you are X, Y, Z, and being prepared for it, because guess what? Like, buckle up.
Yeah, I think it's probably not a surprise, but just, having the cash available to put up for down payment money. When it comes to design build, it was interesting, like contingency money. So we have to put up 10% of contingency money. So essentially it was like, you need to put a whole another $800,000 into a kitty to just sit there. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of additional cash and just come up and sit there. So that was one thing.
Sure. That's not making interest.
There's is just wild, like, oh man, I didn't think of that. And obviously the financials got to be strong enough to support everything. And and I guess that was another challenge, is like, this has been a 3.5 year process. So financials can evolve, and let's say that there's a downturn in the moving market, like there was a couple of years ago, and we're already on the way. That makes banks a little hesitant when we're already in. So certainly the challenges of just going through the process, you're having to maintain our financials to support what we're doing. Banks can get real finicky. And I think really just being prepared for the amount of cash, and then the amount of cash that's going to have to come up after the fact to outfit this place with FF&E. So, the racking and the fixtures and all that kind of stuff to do it right. But in my opinion, it's absolutely going to be worth it. Not just from the commercial real estate, being in the game, so to speak, when it comes to commercial real estate, but this is all back to the culture place. People want to work for a winning team. People like having a great place to come to work at. This is going to be a state-of-the-art facility when it comes to moving. And Muscular Moving Men, we're going to have a badass gym, and
of course you are.
Of course you are. So
yeah. Question for you on when we, and I love the fact that you kind of phrased it state of the art, because it kind of leads into my another question for this warehouse. I know there was a friend of mine that it does logistics, and when they were designing and building their warehouse, which was like 100,000 square foot warehouse they built out in the Fraser Valley, compared from their old warehouse, he looked at new innovation, right? Like, hey, we're doing logistics. How can we how can we utilize new technology, having racking systems where you press a button and like it rolls through or things come out. Like he was using very advanced technology that was being done in Europe in warehousing and logistics, facilities that were massive organizations, to make sure that he was like top notch, and it just blew up his business tenfold out here on the West Coast. Sitting with the team, what things, if you can share it, that you want to implement in the warehouse to really bring like technology in. Like we really want to make sure like this is advanced, especially because we're going to kind of talk about your commercial division that's being launched as well too. So things to look for, and especially when it comes to efficiency, safety, use of technology.
Yeah, I think for us, the stuff that you were describing there, the doing in Europe and rolling rack stuff, that you got to look into that. That's not something we have factored in, but I think there's a lot that we haven't even necessarily gotten to as far as the outfitting, because a lot of it is the structural piece and how is it set up, how does this flow correctly, the way that the office space is. And site plans, these kind of things. So a lot of that next level, tech type things, where do the cameras go? That's going to be exciting to get into. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for us to go through that. But I think, for us, because we're kind of operating 4 different companies, so to speak. So we have, Muscular Moving Men, the local original company. For us, we have our Interstate.
Local Moving does the local stuff.
Local Moving does the local stuff. The Interstate at our level.
I like this. Good transition, Josh. Now let's bring this into the fore. Look at this. It's like he knew exactly where I was going to lead to. All right, so we got the one model, right? You're the OG Local Moving.
OG Local Moving. You had Interstate Moving for us, which is a tractor trailers fleet of at any point 15 to 20 tractor trailers. We have our commercial division, which is M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics. So all that is office and industrial moving. And, there's both the location here as well as in Washington, D.C. And as of this year, we now have our restoration pack out division, which is Elite Contents and Restoration. So really managing 4 different companies, thinking through, as it pertains to the warehouse, how do we dial this out correctly to accommodate, office space wise, all entities, storage wise, have a good flow. So, it's a lot to factor in.
Josh, when you are looking at this type of model, a lot of moving companies that are out there go, yeah, well, we just keep it under one umbrella. Like, sure, we just diversify and we have a commercial division and we have a long distance division and we have the local division. And, we have crews that only do restoration because now we're working with restoration companies. So we can handle the content pack outs, we can handle NR items, and this is all fine and dandy. What made you decide to say, no, we're going to actually have different LLCs for each different division, keep things separate? Is it on a management side of things? Is it just how you want to keep things structured? Because now it's, hey, we got like 4 businesses that are going on. So how does that whole entity work?
Yeah, that's a good question too. And how that even kind of came about. So, I would say that started with M3 Commercial. So, Muscular Moving Men is the original entity. And I guess this kind of stemmed from, we just weren't sure if this spoke to a person in charge of relocating an office manager, entrusting their commercial move. Does Muscular Moving Men really resonate with them? Or do they need something a little bit more polished when it comes to commercial moving? So M3, Commercial Moving and Logistics. Like, this is a commercial specific entity. That's all this side of the business does. And for residential and commercial moving, they really are very different. So it's easy for us to sell against residential movers when it comes to commercial moving. The other side of that was the my other partner, Jim Stevens, that we brought in from just a commercial moving juggernaut in the DC area to lead this entity. He's part owner of this entity. So by way of that, we needed a separate entity for him to be vested into. So there was a couple of different facets of that, what resonates with our clientele, as well as from papering it, structuring it, it made more sense. And then by way of that now, it is just the commercial side of our business essentially does as much as the residential side. And that it's in year 6 now. It has just been a screaming success. And
it's amazing. Congratulations. I love the M3 idea and concept behind that. It makes me think of 3M, right? But you're so on the ball when it comes to like the namings. Like it's a hard sell, especially on the commercial side. But 3M, you can totally pay with it. So kudos to that. Congratulations on the growth on the commercial side. Do you separate your crews? So it's like, hey, sorry, you're working for Muscular Men. Yeah, you work for M3. Do you keep everything very separate? Do you categorize guys to say, okay, yeah, you know what, like you have training in this and this, so you can do this tomorrow because maybe we're a bit slower on the residential side? How does that work when it comes to employees?
That has been a interesting education for us. So it starts as the bolt-on, and we've actually proved this concept with another partner as well in a different market. It starts with the local residential company, and then you're bolting on the commercial company. But it is to the point we've gotten now, the commercial side, becomes more and more of its own dedicated team. So there's a Muscular Moving Men side of the warehouse office, and then there's an M3 side of the office. There's a MMM admin team. There's an M3 admin team. There's MMM dedicated movers and drivers. There's M3 dedicated project managers and these kind of things. And then there is a pool of shared resources, which you're kind of alluding to, mover athletes that can work both residentially or commercial, and they're pulled as needed. So
they're getting 2 different paychecks?
No. So one paycheck. So that's an education. They used to get 2 different paychecks, but then that gets into a deeper conversation of hours tracking, because their 40 hours is it's all paid through one payroll, and then there's a due from account where one entity pays back the other.
Yeah, so I was gonna say is like, does the back end admin side then look at it going, oh, okay, so Chris got 30 hours, but like 20 of that was working for M3, 10 of it was working for MMM. We have to make sure that, so this company has to pay back that company for utilizing him, but it's like after the said and done.
So yes to both. So there's an MMM payroll, there's an M3 payroll for the dedicated assets. All the shared resources, so the movers, they're paid through the MMM payroll, so MMM being Muscular Moving Men. And then
we caught that.
Yeah, okay. and then we are tracking the amount of hours that were, whether it's local, interstate, restoration, or M3, and there's paybacks based off of that.
But at the end of the day, the MMM, like the one main entity, is really paying, like everybody that comes and works for you, like that's where your paycheck's coming from. That's where you're getting paid. All the different entities are going, they're getting charged.
That's right.
For the resources of them.
That's right. And
okay, I like that. I'm just trying to clarify for anybody that's like me and takes a couple seconds to digest and then okay, this makes sense.
And that's why it makes it like so easy, much more easy to make it profitable on the commercial side of the business. I mean, we're talking about 20% nets on the commercial side of the business for, we've just to some extent, we've already done the hard work of building a residential business, building the processes and all this things. All the pieces and the systems are really there. But the bolt-on, it is not as difficult as it was to start the original. So there's a lot more into that, but
long distance side of things. Boy, we're almost have to do like a part 2. The long distance side has been a journey for you. lots of learning. I know it's so different compared to being in Canada where, you know, just because I'm going from British Columbia to Alberta, like there's not that many regulations. We obviously have IFTA. We have to, you know, keep track of where we are and where we're located and some of the different taxes. But in the United States, you know, if I'm sending trucks going across country and or stopping and doing different work, you know, picking up in Ohio and I'm picking up in, you know, Colorado, like just all these different locations, there is a lot more compliance issues that you have to follow and know of. Can you elaborate a little bit of that and like the learning piece of the long distance side?
Yeah, I think so. So we were an agent for a major band line in 2015, and that was painful and one of the most educational processes for us for a couple of years. It was long enough for us to, you know, understand that being a van line agent wasn't the best fit for our organization, but understanding operating tractor trailers, what are hours of service, and you know, what is IFTA, as you know just referenced. So all these other kind of compliance things, and it's no joke with the FMCSA when we're operating tractor trailers. So I think it was a really educational experience as far as to understand building off of tariff pricing, you know, and just making this evolution from the independent company that's going to only run box trucks, which nothing wrong with that too. And it's very straightforward. I kind of miss that sometimes. You know, running box trucks, potentially flying guys around the country, doing these kind of things when it comes to interstate moving, to only operating tractor trailers. From that, you know, where do we find these drivers? Because when it comes to, you know, posting an ad for CDL drivers, a lot of guys, unless they've come from the moving industry, don't necessarily want to, like, you're telling me I got to drive the tractor trailer and move furniture now? Yeah, no thanks. So, you know, for us, finding a way to promote from within and make this an advancement opportunity, put guys through CDL school, properly train these guys. So, you know, learning how to operate tractor trailers, have the drivers that can do it safely, be in compliance. And then now that we have the tractor trailers and the drivers, we need the jobs to even really grow this. So that's been a whole process and experience, which we've really relied on our moving partners, which has been a, you know, just an unbelievable program for us. And to really get into operating consolidated trailers, which, you know, essentially is pairing multiple shipments on to a trailer and going to some other parts of the country. So from that, you know, really learning about move coordinators, high level trip planning, everything that goes with interstate moving, which is a lot, not to mention pricing these moves correctly and figuring out, are we or are we not even making any money? Because tracking the margins on these consolidated trailers, it can be a little complex.
Hi, I'm Mark Hirschi with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about Tighten Up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs, there's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tighten Up training yet, get a demo done. Get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tighten Up training today.
Well, it's always one of those, you know, one of those things just like, oh, wow. You know, and I hear it sometimes in a lot of groups. It's like, okay, I just booked this like $24,000 move from California to like Arizona, for example. And it's like, okay, well, you know, what's your breakdown? And how does that look like? And what's the wear and tear in your truck at the end of the day? And are you driving it in a straight truck or are you using a tractor trailer? And can you sub this out? And and you really have to know your numbers, especially when it comes to the long haul, because there's also the drivers that have to be paid there. Maybe you have the sub out contractors. I know the other day we had to find contractors to help offload a shipment because there was nobody in there. Like, it doesn't make a sense to send a bunch of guys 10 hours away. You can might as well just hire locally within there. But then they have day rates, and those guys want day rates. Doesn't matter if it's a 4-hour offload or if it's an 8-hour offload. You're paying them, $300 or $400, whatever their cost is, and you're strapped, and you have to factor that in. And so what happens if the tires blow? A lot of those tractor trailers, you have to make sure your maintenance safety is being well taken care of. You think you've done your proper inspections. Well, guess what? Now that truck just went to the scale, and you're being pulled over because the taillights are out, or your inside tire has blown, and that's got to get changed, and there's no mechanic, and you're having to find. Me and Josh could probably talk about this for like the next half an hour and just make people super turned off to wanting to do long haul. But it's factors that you really want to play out and make sure that you are well aware of, because if the margins aren't there, your $100,000, $150,000 tractor trailer just costs you a lot of money, or it's not even worth having, because that's another investment as well too.
It absolutely, and I think I could talk about the interstate. I geek out on the interstate logistics side. I mean, I think it's it's fun for me. It's fascinating, the puzzle making piece of it. I do envy just running the box trucks to the surrounding states, because there is I think there's a sweet spot of 7,000 pounds or a box truck or less going 800 miles or less or so. That is a premium service, and there's always a place to send a box truck across the country if you want, if the customer wants to pay for that. And I think your expenses are so controlled in terms of like, this is how many miles, this is how much fuel, this is how much we pay the driver. It can be very clear, and so I need to charge this much, and it's really a lot more controlled like that. Although it does open the door to a lot of other things that can go wrong when it comes to interstate. Operating from a consolidated trailer model, picking up, dropping off, there is a lot more that goes into it. The trucks breaking down that you referenced there. I mean, for example, like on our interstate tractors, we only do lease tractors. I don't, that was a shift actually for me. Like, want to own everything. I don't want to pay lease. All we do is lease tractors for the very, like if a truck goes down, I don't want to be dealing with a down truck. Hence, give me a new truck until our lease is fixed. These kind of things.
The idea of going long haul, I want to kind of give you a bit of a plug, to expand this opportunity to be able to service a lot of these areas. If someone was interested in the, MMM way, that wanted to try and help, says, man, I don't know how to get into the long distance market, but I would love to try and partner with someone to help me, because I'm getting leads going here, I'm getting leads going there. What can they do?
Yeah, I think that's what our whole Moving Partner program is built off of, and it's just been a huge success. And so, number one, on our website on muscularmovingmen.com, there's a place to submit for information, or just email through to movingpartners@muscularmovingmen.com for more information. But we try to make it as straightforward and simple as possible. So I think this is leaning on my experience with a van line again. From my opinion, it was very complex to understand, how do I get paid? Where's my money at? And, who's servicing the shipment? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. So my perspective as being an independent owner, which I am, I'm like, look, let's make this as simple and straightforward. There's a lead that comes through. We are servicing the lead. There's a warm handoff, and we are paying a percentage, 10% to our moving partner. Very clear cut. We're sharing reporting every week. Monthly, our checks are coming out very timely. I'm very honored to say that we've cut about $600,000 in checks to our moving partners this year. So, I mean, that's now that's outside of the load board that we have, which is essentially providing local opportunities for our partners as well. So versus like the lumpers that you were just describing and like these day rates, which that's a whole different brand of people that and experiences you can be dealing with sometimes. And a lot of them are good, but we like to give these local opportunities to our partners. So we post a load board every Monday, and we have trucks all around the country, and we're divvying these out to our partners. So we try to make it a win-win-win. So like to your point, Mark, there's leads that we would never see across the country, Florida to Washington. We're based out of Phoenix. We wouldn't probably see that Florida to Washington lead, but we get these leads all the time. It's a great referral for the client because we are now able to take care of them as an independent moving company, provide that same level of service as the independent company that they originally called, just at a more competitive price, most likely. So the client's taken care of. We are getting a lead we never would have seen before, and our partner is able to get paid on a lead that they probably wouldn't be able to service, and likely also get a local opportunity. So it's been really beneficial, and that goes into part two of building the infrastructure and operation that can then properly manage all this interstate work, which, that's a work in progress.
Oh, I bet. Well, I tip my hat to you, Josh, because it's a lot of work to manage multiple divisions, multiple businesses, building a warehouse, going on triathlons, growing a mustache. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of learning, and mistakes can happen, and it looks like you guys are just killing it. I mean, congratulations for the success. I'm excited to see what 2026 happens. For all those that are listening and watching, we will throw down that email and that link to the Mover program, and see where it takes you. Especially to me, this is kind of like a win-win for those that are small, looking to grow, looking to expand into long distance, getting the leads in. I mean, you're building this job board, you're building this massive network of movers that are readily available. And hey, guess what? Maybe it'll motivate you also to work out a little bit more and be part of that MMM pride in staying healthy and showing that culture. So, Josh, this has been great. I will sign off with one last question to you. What advice would you give somebody going into 2026 that is trying to grow their moving company that they should focus on?
Sure. And side note, thanks for all the kind words, Mark. And it's a privilege to be on your program. And I know it's really respected, it has a great following. So it's an honor to be on. But advice for not only to people listening or even to myself is just keep quality at the forefront. It's easy to get wrapped up into volume and the top line revenue, which does not even matter. All that matters is the bottom line. How much are you actually profiting? And by way of that, put the client first, do a great job. Everything else will take care of itself. So it's not a race, it's a marathon. Focus on quality and the bottom line, and try to not get too wrapped up into the volume of moves and the top line, because it really doesn't, it's not the most important thing.
I love that. Quality, guys, focus on it, guys and gals. And for all those that are watching, thank you also for following us, for subscribing, to liking, to hit us up with those 5-star reviews on Spotify or Google, Apple. But make sure you, us movers are always trying to get that Google review. So come on. But yes, thank you so much, and stay Movified, everybody. And until next time, take care. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.